What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So today is finally the day that Nintendo Switch OLED alongside of Metroid Dread have released, and Nintendo put out an interesting interview with developers who worked on that Switch OLED system, talking about the visible and invisible changes that they made to the Switch. We're going to go over that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Microsoft reviving the Kinect, seemingly for what it was always meant to do, and we're also going to talk about Xbox celebrating its 20th anniversary, making us all feel old once again. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button, it helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with another big release today that alongside of Metroid Dread. You know, I said I feel like Metroid Dread will sell 3 million copies, but not as confident now after seeing this release on the eShop. That being AAA Clock. That's right, it's out now for $9.99. And I saw this after we got done talking about Calculator for $10. And I mean, we have to look at it, right? This says, here it is, what all gamers have been waiting for. AAA Clock. That's right, not just any clock. AAA Clock. Key features include super production quality while incorporating classic clock mechanics, a premium product for the demanding users, HD clock with full support for OLED. See, they thought of everything here, released on the same day as the OLED, and a retro game included, weighs in at 166 megabytes, and it has save data cloud support for some reason. These are just eShop releases. They're very strange at times, some of the stuff that drops on there. Like I said, we talked about the calculator. Here we are now talking about a AAA clock. That's out now, and like I said, I'm a little concerned now for Metroid Dread and that 3 million number. Also, it looks like EA could be reevaluating some of their licensing, specifically with the FIFA name. Take a look at this over on VGC. This from EA saying, as we look ahead, we're also exploring the idea of renaming our global EA Sports football games. This means we're reviewing our naming rights agreement with FIFA, which is separate from all our other official partnerships and licenses across the football world. It's strange to me because the FIFA title, it's like FIFA 22, right, is out, and it's selling well. Even the Legacy Edition, we're gonna look at that here soon, later on in the show. The Legacy Edition on the Switch, which is just a basic update that they could have just pushed through, like, through a system update or something for the game. That's selling well. It's just that FIFA name. It's weird to me that EA would step back and say, no, we got to change something that's very recognizable with gamers right now, where they're walking to a store and say, I'm going to go ahead and grab the new FIFA game. They might not even know what year it is. Just give me the new FIFA game. The only thing I think of is that there are negotiations going on in the background that do not favor EA, and there's just a lot of money that's maybe being asked for to continue using that FIFA name. And let's be real, eFootball didn't exactly put a bunch of pressure on EA, so maybe they think they can rename it, keep all of the other licensing that continues to allow them to use the different names and stadiums and content that they have there, and just see if they can reestablish their soccer or football brand once again. Seems kind of risky to me when they've built up that FIFA name for so long. Oh, and we did have the Battlefield 2042 open beta start in early access, and it sounds weird to say that, but they essentially allowed people who are part of EA Play or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, so if you are part of that, you just search Battlefield 2042 open beta and download it now. Or if you did pre-order the game, you can try it out right away. But I believe starting either later on today or tomorrow morning, they're just going to open the beta for everyone. And I got a chance to play some of it, and it is very glitchy, like surprisingly so. I know it's a beta, but even that, I was a little surprised with how much was going on in front of me that looked like the game was basically pulling apart at the seams. There are glitches all over the place in front of you, or the artifacting parts of the screen will kind of cut out. And I noticed even on PC, some people were having a hard time just getting it to start up and run for a couple of minutes. So it does seem kind of shaky right now with Battlefield 2042, although they did mention that this build is months old and they're collecting very valuable feedback that will allow them to still make that November 19th release. I don't know, I'm starting to see a lot of people online say, hey, you got to delay this game, but if this really is just an older build that they're trying to collect data around when it comes to their servers and even just how people are interacting with that map, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, they had to delay it already out of October into November. that being November 19th, so I guess we'll find out more as we approach that date if it does need another delay. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this interview that Nintendo released with developers who worked on that Nintendo Switch OLED system. Let's head over here. This was posted up on Nintendo's site, and I will link all this down below in the sources so you can read through this, because this is very fascinating, some of the stuff they go over. If you ever wanted to like really consider what happens in R&D and different things they are thinking about, this is something you'll want to read through. Now, the two people that were interviewed here, we have Ko Shioda, who is the general manager at technology, and Taro Yamashita, who is the deputy general manager, technology development department. And they had 4 different sections they broke this into. Gaming consoles are destined to be continuously improved even after launch. The visible changes in Nintendo Switch OLED model, and the invisible changes. We have visible and invisible, and they tried to explain it as best as they could. Like visible, for example, they went over the screen. That's obvious, right? It's like, oh, I can see this. It's different because it's an OLED screen. It's larger. They went through some of the things they had to do to make this work, which included having the screen itself, that OLED screen, be thinner because they did not want this system to be any thicker. And they did change a lot when it came to the kickstand, for example. And even that caused some issues in development as they were looking to work all of this out. Like I said, it is something to consider in development from start to finish when they look at a system like the Switch we had, right, the hybrid model, the original one, and they're essentially working within the bounds that they had already created back when they released that in 2017. They want to improve it by putting a larger screen in, but they can't make the system itself any larger. As for some of the invisible changes, they did go over the speakers in great detail. They even have an entire diagram showing the difference between the closed type speakers that they have in the Switch OLED model and the open type speakers that they have in the Switch Lite and the regular red box Nintendo Switch. They also talked about the jump when it came to storage size from 32 gigabytes to 64 gigabytes, and they even went into details like the engraving on the Joy-Con grip. Rather than being printed, it is now just engraved into it, and the difference when it came to the patterns on that Joy-Con strap. And they even mentioned the HDMI cable itself being more, I guess, malleable or easier to kind of bend and move around compared to the older HDMI cable. And then they got to the dock, and this is one that threw me off a little bit, and you'll have to tell me, I guess, exactly how you were managing your dock with your red box Switch, for example, or even your original one. Like, they show a picture here, and it's the regular dock with the hinges at the bottom. And in my mind, you look at the dock, you see kind of that cutout there, and I figured, okay, yeah, this is where the cables are routed through to kind of give it a more clean look, so you don't have cables all over the place there on the backside. But according to Nintendo, a lot of the data they gathered, people just left the bottom part down, and that's why with the new dock, that whole back door just breaks off. I thought people were originally like even breaking it by accident. No, it's designed to completely come off, and that way if you don't want a door just kind of flopped down, you don't have to have it at all. To me though, it seems pretty obvious how the setup is supposed to be with the cables, so I'll probably leave the back on. It was just an interesting footnote that I noticed. However, I would say the most interesting part about all of this has to do with the 4th section, because they get very in-depth with the Joy-Con controllers. This was asked. Another major characteristic of Nintendo Switch is the Joy-Con controllers. A big part of the user experience comes from the Joy-Con, but were there any improvements? They go on to say the analog stick at first release cleared the Nintendo reliability test using the method of rotating the stick while continually applying a load to it with the same criteria as the Wii U gamepad's analog stick. As we have always been trying to improve it as well, we have investigated the Joy-Con controllers used by the customers and repeatedly improved the wear resistance and durability. The parts of the Joy-Con analog sticks are not something that can be bought off the shelf, but are specifically designed, so we have undergone a lot of considerations to improve them. In addition, we improved the reliability test itself, and we have continued to make changes to improve durability and clear this new test. Now, this part, I guess, would be classified as an invisible change because they're specifically talking about that analog stick inside of the Joy-Con. They mentioned it's not going to look any different from the outside. We're just trying to make these tweaks and internal changes with testing and I guess the durability of that analog stick. So yeah, Nintendo is working on the Joy-Con analog stick that really leads to that Joy-Con drift behind the scenes. They just, I guess, haven't been able to tackle it completely. And we're to the point now where Nintendo releases a brand new system and you have an entire consumer advocacy group calling them out over it. We can see this over on Nintendo Life. Consumer advocacy group calls out Nintendo for Joy-Con drift ahead of the Switch OLED launch, saying this shows a regrettable lack of respect for both the environment and consumers. Now, according to Nintendo Life, this is from Euro Consumers. It's a group that represents 5 national consumer organizations and has issued a press release challenging Nintendo on its continuing sales of the existing Joy-Cons. Really, the issue here is, let's say they do happen to fix the Joy-Con drift. Like, they're talking about making all these changes to the analog stick, and it silently goes out in a new kind of Joy-Con revision, sort of, but there's no physical changes on the Joy-Con itself on the outside. It's not a Joy-Con Pro, for example. People are still just not going to trust it. It won't matter. So it's until we either have Nintendo make a full press release that's like, we fixed it, from here on out, all of these Joy-Cons that are releasing don't have Joy-Con drift that we've been able to replicate. But the problem then is, that means they were aware of it before, and they would probably end up losing a lot of those class action lawsuits that are brought against them now and are still pending and ongoing. So I think they're going to try to quietly fix it, or we get to the next Switch and they do a big blowout of, here's the Joy-Con V2 or the next gen Joy-Con. It's just a shame because the Joy-Con controller right now, this Switch generation, is always going to be looked at as a serious issue when it comes to the Switch, even if they do fix it. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft reviving the Kinect, but not for the Xbox. No, this appears to be for a TV, which makes a ton of sense because at E3, they said TV, like 84 times or something? Take a look at this over at The Verge. They say Microsoft Kinect is back thanks to Sky's new all-in-one TV. Sky resurrects Microsoft's living room dream. This from the Sky's chief product officer saying, working with Microsoft, we're also building a fantastic feature that lets us watch TV together. Even if we're miles apart, it syncs your TV with other households with integrated video and chat on screen, and you can choose content from the biggest channels, including Premier League matches, movies, and all your favorite entertainment. You can see a little camera right at the top there on their new Sky Glass TVs. Now, it also appears that they're going to have different games, but they sound like they're, I guess, a bit more casual style games. Fruit Ninja, there's a Paw Patrol branded title, and then apparently a few others they're going to do, where they say family games are never going to be the same again. And the biggest issue we ran into with the Kinect is Microsoft attempted to just completely attach it to the Xbox One. Like, there were talks that you would always have to have it plugged into your Xbox. They ended up backing off that with a system update, I believe they did right on day one, but it still came packaged with every system. It made the cost more expensive than the PS4, which was more powerful at the time, and that was a whole thing because $100, I mean, yeah, that's a big deal when it comes to buying a console, and the other one is running games better, but because this one has a camera that you set up in your house and they can also hear you through it, it costs more. You see what I'm getting at? Back in 2013, there was a lot of concerns around privacy, and you have to pay $100 more to then set up the camera. We've come a long way, I think, since then. I think because we carry phones around all over the place with cameras and microphones and all of this. But still, it was annoying to have to pay more money for something we weren't really going to use. Like, after a little while, a lot of people just kind of put their Kinects away, and that was that. It was fun at first, right? When they came out on the 360 and you were like kicking a soccer ball around, or, you know, jumping up on they had like the ride and it would take a picture of you and your friend playing, and those were fun. But they were games that got old pretty quick, and then you kind of moved along from there and you were wondering, what else can this do? And they come up with like Star Wars Kinect, and you start seeing the games that are coming out and you're like, ooh, maybe this wasn't worth picking up. But at least it appears to have found a home, and that's with TV. Next up, let's talk about Xbox's 20th anniversary, as next month, the Xbox brand is going to turn 20 years old. And wow, that certainly makes me feel old thinking back to 2001, that holiday when the Xbox and the original Halo released. It was something else, but it looks like Microsoft is going to have an entire celebration with a bunch of Xbox accessories, which obviously includes a controller. Take a look at this here. This is the 20th anniversary special edition Xbox wireless controller. They have a little video here with kind of a fly around of the controller. It is translucent on the front, has a little 20 with the Xbox symbol there through the 0. I like kind of the green that they have around the D-pad. See, on the other side of the plastic for your Xbox One or Series controller, there is like a metal piece that runs around that D-pad, so they figured, hey, let's make it green. It'll give all this really nice kind of green glow around that D-pad. They have the green accent there on the Xbox logo for the guide button. Then around the back of it, they do have kind of that green portion of the controller that would be almost like it would normally be like a rubberized grip. It's like a textured kind of grip there, all green as well. It's a nice looking controller. I will say that it's certainly set up for a bit of nostalgia, reminding you that it's been 20 years since you bought that original Xbox, but this is going to retail at $70, $69.99. It's available, they say, in like different various retailers, but they also point out the Microsoft Store, I guess for anyone who has one of those around them, and it is coming out November 15th. They also have a 20th anniversary special edition Xbox stereo headset. And this one is strange because they didn't do it with the wireless headset that they just released. This is just, I guess, the wired headset. This going for $70, also releasing November 15th. They do have a Razer Universal Quick Charging stand for the Xbox. That has a nice little 20 logo right there. And then a bunch of Xbox gear, I guess, if you want hats or shirts or any of that. Like I said, certainly playing into the nostalgia of everything, but very cool to see Xbox turn 20. Just thinking back through the years with the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, which for a lot of people was the height of the Xbox brand overall. The Xbox One fell off a bit, but the Xbox Series systems seems like they're coming back around and they're starting to figure things out, and why not celebrate the 20th anniversary? Exciting stuff here. Make sure you, I guess, take a look around for any pre-orders on that controller, as it sounds like it was selling pretty quickly. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Famitsu sales charts, because I noticed something on these sales charts in Japan. I was a little surprised by it, but let's start with the top 10 games, and I'll show you what I mean. We see at the top here, The Legend of Heroes, that's 50,114 copies from the PS4. I mean, the PS4 topped the charts with 3 or 4 different games here, that being Legend of Heroes, then FIFA 22, then Lost Judgment, and then Melty Blood. So, wow, that you don't see that very often with Sony taking the top 4 positions in Japan. But then look at number 5. FIFA 22 Legacy Edition on the Switch. We talked about this. FIFA 22 is just a simple update that adds not much of anything other than like a roster update to the game, and that's like $40. It sold 13,385 copies. Do you see what I mean when I said they shouldn't be changing the FIFA name, because obviously people recognize that and will just buy it because it's FIFA? That's impressive stuff there. Melty Blood then for the Switch, 11,604. WarioWare Get It Together, 10,862. Then we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Dragon Ball Z, Kakarot, and Minecraft rounding out the top 10. Moving over to the hardware, we do have some of the variations split up here, but we'll go through the 8 they've listed. The Nintendo Switch, that'd be the hybrid model, 32,000 units. The PlayStation 5, 11,000 units. Then we have the Switch Lite, 8,377. The Xbox Series S, 2,763. The PS5 Digital Edition, 1,781. The Xbox Series X, 1,372. PS4, 933. And then the new 2DS LL, 474. I do want to point out for the Xbox, something I've noticed, they are coming up on the Xbox One's lifetime sales in Japan. I think that was north of 100,000 by not much. So we do have the Xbox Series at least catching that, most likely in the first year on sale. And I mean, it's not great in general for the Xbox brand in Japan, but you'll kind of compare it to your previous generation. So yeah, there you go. The Xbox Series systems appear set to outsell the Xbox One very easily. But remember, the Switch at times will sell over 100,000 units without breaking a sweat in 1 week. So not impressive overall, but for Xbox, they're at least making strides in the right direction. FIFA 22 Legacy is just kind of blowing me away here on the Switch. I don't know if that's good for the Switch, is showing how strong it is in Japan, or once again, the fact that EA can kind of just roll something like that out there and it still sells for them. It's found money either way, and it's one of the reasons I would probably continue to pay for that FIFA license. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday where I asked, what will Nintendo do with the Smash Bros. Franchise going forward? 22% said a full reboot of the series. 55% said, hey, just port Smash Bros. Ultimate to new systems going forward. And then 23% said a new Smash Bros. Same concept, but more characters. How many more characters are we gonna put in here? Because are we just gonna come up on just the clear 100 character mark? That's a lot of characters to fit into one game. But now I am wondering what Nintendo does. How do you top Smash Bros. Ultimate? And is Sakurai interesting in returning for what could potentially be another 8 years of development on a Smash Bros. Title? Remember, he's been doing this for a long time, so maybe he's ready for retirement. Maybe he wants to do something completely different. But yeah, this is something to really think about as we go along here. I feel like the obvious move in the meantime is for Nintendo to take Smash Bros. Ultimate and just port it to the next system. That'll buy them some time until they figure out if they are going to continue the Smash Brothers like series with another director or somebody overseeing things with Bandai Namco. Hard to say, but certainly going to be interesting to see what Nintendo decides to do. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Tyler saying, why is he explaining what a cheat code is? Oh, right, I'm old. Cheat codes were so much fun back in the day in some of these older titles, and cheat codes have kind of gone away. I mean, I know a lot of it's because we've become more connected to the internet with our games, and a lot of these companies will even take things out of the games and add them into the digital deluxe version or DLC or just things you would pay for outside of that, which, yeah, being connected so much the internet has enabled. But back then, I just feel like we always had these cheat codes attached to games, and you'd have all these hidden unlockables, which were a blast to do, and it just kind of feels like they've been taken out of games more and more and more. A lot of things about gaming has changed. I mean, back in the day, you get a magazine with a demo disc, you pop it in. Sometimes those would have cheat codes. Yeah, so it's a lot different now. Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? I guess depends on the way you look at things. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the Switch OLED and Metroid Dread. Let me know if you picked either of those up. Also, what about Microsoft seemingly finding a home now for the Kinect, kind of where it should always be with TV. And then the Xbox turning 20 next month. Let me know your best memories of the Xbox brand dating back to 2001 when it originally launched. Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.